All right. Hey, team. Welcome to Colbyashi Maru, the show where devs all over the world boldly face off against the most logical tools of the web. I'm Colby Fayok, your Space Jelly commander and the host of today's challenge. Today, we have Sean Keegan. Sean is a developer advocate at Postman and Ultimate Frisbee champion. Let's bring him in. Hey, Sean, do you want to give yourself a quick intro, or is there anything you'd like to add?
I'm not sure I could do a better job introducing myself. That was perfect. Those are two of my biggest hobbies. But yeah, no. Hey everyone, I'm Sean Keegan. Like Colby said, I'm at Postman. I am a developer advocate over there. I've been there about 6 months, so I feel like I know enough to be dangerous and hop on a show like this with Colby.
Exactly.
And yeah, Ultimate Frisbee is also a passion of mine. So are video games. If you saw that in the description of what we're going to get into today, these are all things that I kind of love. So hey,
that's awesome. Perfect. Cool. Well, if you're new to Colbyashi Maru, our guests will have 1 hour to complete their project challenge. Through that time, Sean will try to talk out loud as he's working through the challenge, but I'll also be asking questions along the way. So if you have a question, don't hesitate and send it over in the chat, and I'll field it over to Sean. So today, Sean will be facing off against Postman, where he'll be building out some gaming APIs inside of Postman in itself. If he doesn't finish the challenge, all is not lost. We'll see if he has enough time to finish up, or we'll just kind of chat about what the next steps would look like. So Sean, before we actually dive in, do you want to give a little bit of an overview about what the tool is that you'll be using, Postman, of course, and just an idea about what we'll be working with?
Yeah. So Postman, if you're not familiar, is we call it an API collaboration platform. And it's essentially a tool that allows you to experiment with APIs, play with APIs, build APIs as well, all within this one powerful tool. And it's expanded. It started off just kind of as a simple tool to allow people to test APIs and play with them, and it has since expanded significantly. It's now like a very collaborative platform. You can have various workspaces where all like team members can collaborate. You can build APIs together, comment. There's workflows like GitHub that allow you to fork and merge and pull requests. So it's really become this robust tool and kind of an all-encompassing way to work with APIs, all things APIs.
Yeah, I'm excited for this one. I've worked with a lot of Postman in the past, especially with some custom APIs. So I'm really curious to learn something myself and dive right in. So if you're ready to go, I'm ready, and I can go ahead and start the timer.
Start it. Yeah, let's do it.
Cool. Let's go. All right, you're off.
Cool. All right. So yeah, I'll give a bit more context around Postman in general and what we're trying to do today. So like I said, Postman is a collaboration platform for API development. So really just allowing people to work with APIs, build them, test them, and just kind of explore them in general. And so that's what we're going to do today is talk about an API called Giant Bomb, which is an API all about video games. And so we'll talk about what we're trying to do exactly with that. But this is our homepage, postman.com. So if you come here, it just has some information about Postman if you wanted to check it out. I know, Colby, maybe you can drop a link in the chat if folks wanted to do that.
Absolutely.
Cool. So this is the homepage, and now the tool itself is a little bit different looking, right? So this is Postman for the web. We have an app as well. They're pretty close to a one-to-one feature functionality. I like the web because it's just easier to share. I can send people a link to exact things that I'm working on and have it sync up in real time for them. So this is the homepage. This is kind of where you would start off if you were just signing into Postman. This is my homepage. You can see I've got my team here, Postman DevRel, for developer relations. And we're actually going to create a workspace. And at the end of today, however far we get, what's really cool about workspaces is they're kind of an environment where you can work together, keep all your collections, keep all of your environments. And if these words don't make sense to you yet, stay tuned. We'll jump into what all those actually mean. But yeah, workspace is just kind of an area where you can combine everything and just have everything in one spot.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
And you got a few people saying good luck in here, so we got you.
Cool. Appreciate it, everybody. I'm trying to see, Colby, is there a way for me to see the chat as well? Oh, here we go. All right, I got it now.
There you go.
Cool. Yeah, so folks, I'll be trying to look at the chat too. Colby will be reminding me if I miss something. So I see good luck, Sean. Yeah, awesome. So again, this is the homepage. I'm going to go ahead and create a new workspace. And again, this is just an environment. You can see some of the other workspaces I've done. I'll just plug this one real quick so you can see what like a fully fleshed out workspace looks like. This is something we did recently and just has various bits of information, documentation. I can invite team members. And at the end of today, we'll have, I wouldn't say fully fleshed out workspace for the video game stuff, but we'll have something that we can share and make public. So I'm gonna go ahead and make a new workspace by clicking workspaces and then come here and click new workspace. And let's go ahead and call this Colby Challenge.
Love it.
And we'll say playing with Giant Bomb API.
Right, I think one thing that you mentioned before is like, so you can collaborate with teams. You see there that it says the visibility of the team, but it can also be completely private. Like, depends on what you want to do.
Totally, right? And so that's a great point, Colby. I can make it public right now, so people could come view this workspace. Yeah, why not? We'll make it public. Yeah, if you want to go to this, we'll create the workspace. We'll get a URL
Little work in progress.
Yeah, so if you wanted to come check it out, this is now going to be a live public workspace with nothing in it that everybody could come check out. So before I go ahead and start creating anything, I think the best thing to do is look at the Giant Bomb API. And for those of you that aren't familiar, right, an API is essentially a tool that allows you to communicate or allows either a user to communicate with, with a service or another machine or another piece of information, or allows machines to communicate with each other. So it's kind of that bridge between, people trying to exchange information or machines trying to exchange information. And so I found this, I think really I just searched for like video games API, a few months ago, and a bunch of different random things come up here. Eventually I found this one called Giant Bomb, which is pretty cool. So I'm going to actually just go ahead and search that one now.
It's amazing how many people have like these varieties of APIs. I think my favorite one is Final Space, which is a TV show, if you've heard of it.
I have.
It's a geeky TV show. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. But yeah, it really, APIs are becoming more and more ubiquitous. If you want people to access your information or if you want to, be known, pretty much everything is using APIs these days. Cool.
And that, I feel like that makes it more fun to work in, right? Because then you can kind of have something that relates a little bit more to you.
Totally. So I have actually signed up for a Giant Bomb account, and so I'm going to pull it off screen for a second because my my API key is on there, and then pull it back. But yeah, so let's open this up in a new tab so you can watch the workflow. Because I think setting up, excuse me, just like setting up an API and getting started with an API can be challenging. Right, you can see it. The first thing it wants us to do is grab an API key. And ultimately what I'm trying to do, I think the scope of what I'm trying to do here is create like a little like Rolodex of video game characters, and I'm calling them their best friends. Right, so if I were to search for Mario, I'm hoping that I can leverage Postman tool to, play around and go make other calls to the Giant Bomb API, get information from Mario, and then also get like what games was he in, and then who else was in those games, and then use Postman to kind of make a cool little visual, like best friend web kind of thing. And I think it sounded cooler in my head. It sounds a little bit cheesy. No,
I think it sounds awesome.
Yeah.
I love it.
Let's see. And as we get going, right? So folks in the chat, if you have your favorite video game character, let me know. We can see what we can come up with them. Yeah, let's just take a look at this API, right? This is something that, people often come across, and, there's early stumbling blocks with APIs is there's so much you can do. It's almost hard to know where to get started. And so I think that's something worth looking at. So
for sure.
Yeah. Like Colby, you said, you've messed around with APIs and have used Postman in the past. Like, is that something that, you find is an issue when you get started sometimes?
Oh, absolutely. Especially when like the documentation isn't so great and you got to kind of figure out your way around that. So yeah, no, I feel that.
Cool. So let's go ahead. Let's click this API list of resources. It's under the documentation. Awesome. So this is actually a great way to get started, right? We have all these API endpoints. It gives us a little bit of information about what the response would look like if we sent an API call to, any of these URLs. And again, if you're not familiar with APIs, really what's going to happen is we're going to send a request to this address. And you can see that, if we're sending, let's say we want characters, because this is a little bit easier to work with. If I wanted to just get all these characters that are in the Giant Bomb database, I would send a request to this address, right? And I would specify my API key. So that's just kind of the like permissions that say, hey, Giant Bomb, it's me, Sean Keegan, that's trying to access your data. It's okay. Send it to me. Let me get it. And it gives you some information. Yeah. And this is the kind of information. If you send a request that's valid to this URL, these are the ways you can filter what you're sending over to Giant Bomb and saying like, hey, I actually want 50 characters. I don't want more than 50 because that's too many to work with. Or if I wanted to sort by whatever, how recently they were added to the Giant Bomb database. And here's a list of all the things that will come back or that could come back, right? You can get the birthday of your favorite character, the description, all this stuff. So this is kind of documentation in a nutshell. This actually is pretty well documented, in my opinion, just from these first glances here. It kind of tells you all the things you can get. It tells you if you can sort by this field, if you can filter by this field. And what's kind of cool is you'll also see, and this is where I think I'm going to get into this idea of making this kind of like best friends web. I can see what games this character was in, right? So the game this character first appeared. So if and we'll do all this, but if I search for Mario and, then I got this first game, right? Like I think he might've been a Donkey Kong, I think was actually, or like whatever that first game was. And we can see, we'll check it out.
I think that sounds right though.
Yeah. Right. And like, he was just kind of trying to run up the ladder. That might've been the first game Donkey Kong was in too. And you're just like throwing barrels down at Mario.
Classic.
Yeah. Yeah. So the kind of the workflow that I'm envisioning, right, is we'll search for a character, figure out which games this character is in, and then from there, go find the other characters that were in that game. And then we can kind of, combine all that. And Postman will make it easy to do that. So that is this in a nutshell. I'm seeing a comment. I struggle with Postman sometimes to just get, Colby, would you mind putting that comment on the overlay? I'm curious what.
So it automatically gets put in I don't have like a mechanism to put it like big, but it was earlier was shown in there. So if you want to kind of read through it first, that'd probably be best. Sure.
So Do Learning says, I struggle with Postman sometimes to just get to the actual sending requests and receiving responses. And so tend to use Insomnia. You think Postman is aimed at larger teams, or am I just using it wrong? Great question. Yeah, I mean, Insomnia is another valuable tool for working with APIs. Hopefully watching this, I'll show you kind of how easy it can be to get started with Postman and sending that first request. But yeah, I mean, that's great feedback for me. And, I'll bring that back to our team that's something, we want Postman to be as easy as possible. I think the one thing sometimes people do say is there is so much functionality that it can get a little bit overwhelming sometimes to just like do the simple things.
And that's quite a UX challenge, right? Trying to figure out how to keep all that functionality in a way that's always intuitive.
Totally. Cool. So let's go ahead and send our first request. Let's see about just getting these characters. All right. So I will go back to Postman. I'm in my Colby Challenge workspace. I'm going to create a collection, and a collection is just the grouping of requests that you're going to send. So let's call this Giant Bomb API. And so I'll add a request. And we'll say get characters. And if you know much about APIs or anything at all, you'll know that this request probably isn't going to work as is, right? So right now, it's asking for our API key, which we don't have. So let's just go ahead and turn this parameter off. We'll push send, right? So just like that, we've sent our first request. Nothing valuable came back, right? Like this isn't going to help us do anything too important, right? We can see invalid API key. So we know we actually need this field. And I think most people are familiar with getting a different format for your responses, right? This is XML. And I think usually people expect JSON. And so let's go look in the documentation and see if we can figure out, what happened here and why we're getting this weird form. So we know we need an API key. So let's go ahead and log in. That should be the first thing. Let's get an API key.
Just a reminder, if it's going to show the key, if you wanted to pull that off.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and sign up for a new account. Right, and this is truly like starting from scratch. Like I'm not doing anything beforehand for this project. So we'll see, how things go live here. Oh, geez. So give me one sec. This is good security measures in place. I shouldn't complain.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this all sounds good. I don't need the latest information. Okay, sure. It doesn't like the name. Oh, wait. Let's just call it as Keegan. And I'm going to pull it off screen because it might show my API key at the start.
Just to be safe.
Yeah. Okay, it did not. So I'll come back here. If I do want to get the API key, that's the next step. I imagine it's going to be somewhere in viewing my profile or settings. This is actually hard to navigate. So let's see. All right, I'm going to pull it off again, and then I'll tell you after where the API key was, so it didn't leak it anywhere. So this is something, right? Like this is something that probably would have been good to do beforehand just to save time. But I think this is a very realistic workflow of somebody working with an API of like, okay, I want to send this request. How do I get my like authorization set? Like authorization is a big part of working with APIs.
Exactly. And that's a valuable lesson for the API creators too, right? Because that's one of the bigger struggles. You got to make it easy for the people who are using it to find.
Yeah. You know what? I mean, I'll put it here. If it gets leaked, I will just change it and figure it out. But so yeah, if any, Colby, if you have any ideas how to, this is really challenging to navigate here.
So it almost looks like you went into some kind of giant bomb portal, like outside of an API, or are they one the same?
Yeah, I don't know. I had it before. Oh, okay, there it is. So I'm just going to copy that and I'll bring this page back. But yeah, okay. So on this page, just truly under the API, giantbomb.com/API, I got my API key. So now I know I can put it here, right? And so here's a good example of something with Postman that is nice to handle sensitive data, right? I don't want everyone on the stream to see my API key. So I'm going to use a variable here. I'm going to call it API key. And right now this isn't saved in anything. So what I'm going to end up doing is I can create a collection level variable. And this is going to help me with authorization. So I call this thing API key. And what this is going to do is allow me to reuse this value, right? I have this API key, and every request that I make, right? If I come back to the documentation, every request is going to require this, this API key, right? So I'm all over the place here. Sorry, I know I'm like bouncing back and forth. I'm trying to get back to the docs. So this, I wish there was something that was just.
I just realized I was muted. Is it at the top of /API?
It might be, but that's also where the key is. So, oh, here we go. Okay, here's the reference documentation. Cool. But yeah, if you'll notice, like every request requires this API key. So rather than like slapping on this long string of numbers and letters, like I'm going to just repeat and reuse this thing API key as a variable. And the way to do that is come over here to the collection level. So that's just like the folder that encompasses all of these requests. And here is where I'm going to enter in these values. And I'm going to pull this off screen here, right? So let's just say it was ASD, right? I would save this. I actually closed the tab instead of saving it. Keyboard shortcuts. That's a good lesson to not use keyboard shortcuts because no one knows what I'm doing if I do that anyway.
What's the difference between the current and the initial value there?
Great question. So this comes into play with collaboration efforts. So the initial value is what is like the saved value that gets sent. So if I share this workspace or share this collection, that's what people will see and it gets stored. Right. So yeah, this value is shared. So I'm going to actually go back and put this in. So API key. And current is where you can kind of work on your own, and it stays within your own environment, so that you can change that and not worry about leaking that to other people. Right. So let's say it was ASD. I'll save this. And now just to show you what would happen here, right when I come back. Oh no, we lost everything.
At least it was only the beginning. And
yeah,
just a heads up, I'm not sure if you heard that beeping sound like a couple minutes ago. That means you have 45 minutes left and you're about 42 left.
Okay, cool. I did not hear it, but good to know. Well, let's get cranking. Right, so this, instead of this string here, I'm going to use that variable API key at the collection level. And now you can see it resolves to ASD, which is not actually the key, but this is just that workflow. And I will pull this off screen for a second so I can enter in my actual API key there. All right, give me one sec. I'm just doing this stuff on the side so that no one sees my sensitive data. Well, I know how sensitive it is. Yeah, it's cool. So now if I were to hover over this, you would see that it shows my actual API key. And now I should be able to go ahead and send this request, and I should get a list of characters. Oh, okay. So I'm actually searching the character endpoint, which is looking for a specific character with a specific ID. And in this case, I actually want characters, and I happen to note this endpoint is just going to be characters. Send my API key. I'll send this. And voila, cool. We get this response here. So this is our first successful request, right? We've sent it. We got a status of 200, which is in API terms, it means a successful request was sent and response was sent back. And yeah, now again, let's look at this format, right? We're getting this XML response, which is a little bit harder to work with than JSON. And so to look at this, let's go back to the documentation. And I'd like to just go ahead and just search JSON and see what happens.
Logical.
Yeah, right. Like I want JSON, it's what I'm used to. And we can see, right, when we send a request, the format is possible for XML, JSON, or JSONP. Not sure why it defaults to XML, but let's go ahead and change our format. We'll add that parameter to JSON. And if I send this, you're going to see the same stuff, just in a way that's much more manageable to work with. I'm just going to pull up. Oh, and I'll zoom in. Folks are having a hard time seeing this. Success, right? 200. So yay. We are off. We are getting successful requests. We can see we're getting characters. And I'll zoom in a little bit more. And so, great. This is kind of the first step, right? We're getting a list of these characters that we want. We get all sorts of information on them. We can see we're getting, 100 results, which is actually, what they say there. If I come over to the characters endpoint, it tells you the default value is 100 and cannot exceed this number. So, we'll get 100 characters here. And there's no real rhyme or reason to who it's sending back right now. I actually don't know how it's sorted. So this is just 100 characters with all sorts of information about them. And it's kind of a lot. It's kind of tough to work with this. Right. It's great if you want all this information, but I'm just going to try to pare it down and get a little bit less information here. So let's go ahead and see. So field list. So list of field names to include in the response. This is good. This is where we can kind of pick and choose what we want to get back. And right, again, because we have just this massive object for each character, let's go ahead and limit it. So Colby, what kind of stuff, or anybody in the chat, what kind of stuff would you want to see if we're searching for characters? What are some fun things to get?
Maybe the name?
I like that.
I love that it also has birthdays on here.
Yeah, let's see if we can get just name and birthday to start.
We got Hannah saying their catchphrase.
Do they have catchphrases? Oh,
let's hope.
I don't see catchphrases, Hannah, but I do like
Not in this API?
Not in this API, yeah. That would be fun. I'm trying to think of some famous catchphrases. I guess Mario's got the like, it's me, Mario.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Let's search for.
And the image. Oh, we asked, can you zoom in on that a little bit too?
Yeah, of course. Cool. So, astrological sign. Hannah's coming up with some fun ones. I wish they were more fun things, but let's stick with name and birthday and see what we can get.
We have some feature requests though for Giant Bomb.
Yeah, exactly. I do like that. Okay, so if I want a single filter, I would, and this kind of helps us figure out, right? This is what I would tack onto the end of my API request. And so this and symbol or this ampersand symbol is how you add various things to your API request. All right, so now we are searching for filter the field. We said we want, let's actually make sure we're doing the right thing. So, okay, the field is value. So if I want to search for, well, I actually think I'm looking at this incorrectly because I want to just receive back the name and birthday. So I want to actually filter I want to get the certain fields back.
Oh yeah, so that's more of like a search, right?
Yeah, but I think there was a way to limit, right? 'Cause, okay, what I'm saying now is like if I were to filter by name and here did like tracer from Overwatch, right? And I'm actually doing this in the URL, but like again, Postman makes it easy to search these people or to search for various parameters here. And so if I were to send this, I think this is going to send the response with just information for characters named Tracer, and it's still going to send all of that other information that is a lot.
Yep, there we go.
Cool. And so those of you that don't know, Tracer is a cool character from Overwatch. She runs around, she's super fast, but she also Tracer also appears to be in this game Deus Ex, which is I think an old one.
I played one of them. That was a good game.
Yeah. Here we go. Okay, so here's the Tracer from Overwatch. We can see we get this deck, this like, small description about them, the big description. Yeah, and then there's like another Tracer. It looks like looks like Tracer was in Heroes of the Storm as well. But either way, yeah, right. So this is kind of how we can search for a specific name.
Hey, do you think we can bump up the font size another maybe 2 on the docs and even the app if possible?
Yeah, I know it is.
I know we're getting kind of crunched here with the size, but for the screencast.
Yeah, I'm happy to zoom in. I will say on like in the Postman side, the more you zoom in, it does get a little bit tough to use. I'm happy to zoom in, but if I seem like I don't know where things are in Postman, it's because it's the very zoomed in view. Okay, so let's see if we can now try to get some more information or like less information. So if I want to field list of field names to include in the response. Okay, so this is where we can kind of limit that stuff we're looking for. So the field list field, it's a bit of a tongue twister. This is where we're gonna say name, birthday, and I think that's probably the right format, but let's see. Use this if you want to reduce the size of a response. This filter can accept multiple arguments, each delimited with a comma. Cool. So let's push send again, and we should be getting significantly less, information, nice. Which is nice.
No birthdays.
None of these people have birthdays.
So a quick question about that. What would be like a good use case for why you would want to pare down that data? Like, why not just request all the things all the time?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think one quick answer is exactly what we're trying to do now, where it's just I don't want to deal with all that. If I know my final project or final use case is only going to need these 3 fields, it just reduces some of the noise and makes it easier to like follow along. Another thing could be, right, if I'm returning, 1 million or 10 million lines or 10 million responses or objects, and they all have tons and tons of fields, it just means the response gets very big in terms of, like actual, size of the response, not just like looking at it, but like in terms of computing power, right? Like transferring that much data back and forth can be a bit of a slog.
So probably help performance then.
Yeah, totally.
We have a question from Kevin. Are you able to see the actual byte size of a response in the payload?
Great question, Kevin. And you absolutely can. So when you send a request and get a response in Postman, you'll see kind of these like benchmarks for what happened. So we get, our status of 200. You can see how long the response took. I'm going to move my head here. And you can also see the size, right? And so this is nice. I bet if I were to turn this field list off, right? So let's remember this 644 bytes here. If I turn the field list off and click send again, right? That jumped up a significant amount, right?
And we're only talking about 3 characters, right? Like if you have 1,000 characters, that could be a pretty big multiplier.
Exactly. So great question. Thank you, Kevin. Cool. Okay. So let's go back now because we were talking about trying to take these characters and get more information about them. So, okay, we got about 25 minutes left or 30 minutes. So I'm going to get cranking
Almost
here.
at 30.
Yeah. So let's think about the fields that we do want. We're probably going to want, let's have this field deck. So I'll add that back in just so we have some idea of the character we're working with. Birthday didn't seem to return too much for us, but let's keep it in because I think it's kind of fun. I'm going to actually track this GUID, which we're going to use later if we're going to want to, find anything else about the specific characters or use that. I think an image will be nice. And okay, yeah, first appeared in game. I thought there was going to be more games, but this should give us enough to like get started. Cool. All right, so now we've got some information. Well, ideally, let's push send and see what we get. So again, we're looking for tracer. There's 3 characters called tracer. Right, so this results tab, right? We see that we get 3 responses. So that same thing hasn't changed, but now we have a little bit more information in each response. And we have this new object here called first appeared in game. And this is what we're going to kind of use to track other characters in the games that these characters appeared in. And we
hear that beeping this time?
Is that 30? Yeah, I did. That's the 30. Okay. I feel better. I feel like we're in a good spot now.
There we go.
So we're going to take, so this is the tracer that we wanted to work with here. I think it's hard to see. Tracer core. I think this is actually the tracer we want. And the first, yeah, okay. So the first appeared in game was Heroes of the Storm. I did not know that. I thought she was first in Overwatch, but fun to know. So now what we want to do, right? The whole goal of this was to create something where we enter a character's name and then we're able to find, okay, what game were they in? And then who else was in that game with them? So in order to do that, right? If I need to know this game, Heroes of the Storm, and I need to know the ID of that game. Because if I want to identify a specific game, let's go back to the API and see what happens, or let's look at the documentation for games. I'm gonna look at game actually. So game is gonna be the ability to search for a very specific game. And again, you're gonna notice here's that GUID, which is like the ID number specific to an actual game. Let's go ahead, let's copy this URL and let's make a new request that utilizes this. So we have our get characters API, our get characters request. I'm gonna come over here and add a new request, add request. And we'll call this get game. And here's the URL for that. We just copied that from the documentation. And again, this is where we can use that variable that we saved at the collection level. I think I call that API key. Cool. And so now, right, if I were to click send, this will not work, right? Because I don't have a GUID specified, but we can see what happens. We're going to have to go ahead and also select that format of JSON just so we can work with it. And we should see that it's not 404 not found. And that makes sense, right? That just means that what we're searching for, it was not found. It's like not in the database, which makes sense, right? Because hopefully they don't have anything with this lack of GUID. So for right now, I'm going to kind of do a little bit of, I hope this works. So this is the ID. So this is from that first request that we sent where we search for Tracer, we search for the game that they appeared in, and here's the ID of that game. So if this is correct, and this works, I should be able to search for this GUID. This is okay. So right now I'm hard coding it, but we can make this more dynamic later. I just want to see if this works. And okay, cool. Nice. So we got another successful response, which is great. I was hopeful that, if we took this ID number from this, that would work as the GUID here. And I wasn't sure, but that is a positive outcome for us here. Cool. So when we search for a game, actually, let's go back to the docs here. When I search for a game, here's all the things that you can get, right? You can get like other games or other names of the game, a URL pointing to the game data resource. And here's characters, right? This is going to be the thing that we're probably the most interested in. So getting the other characters that are in this game. And again, so let's kind of pare down some of the noise that's coming back from this response. So we'll do the same thing where, we're going to, I'm just going to save this so we don't lose it, and save this as well. So how did I remove some of that noise before? I used this field list, which helps me figure out what do I actually care about? What do I actually want to get back? And in this case, I think we wanted characters. What else, Colby? What else do you think sounds fun?
We probably still want the name of it, right?
The name, yeah, that's that's probably an important one. Ooh, we could see characters that first appeared in that game. That could be kind of interesting. Name. What'd you say?
The one that's killed characters.
Killed characters. Jeez. It'd be you have to have a spoiler alert with this API.
Right.
Yeah, I like name. I like
themes.
Yeah, let's do it.
I'm not sure if themes will be an interesting one, but can see.
Can't hurt. Names and themes. So let's click send. Ideally, now we have a little bit less information for this game. Oh, okay, yes, right. So I was like, I don't know who Sarah Kerrigan is or why we're getting this person.
Right. Should that name be singular there?
Ooh, yeah.
For the game name?
Yeah. So that's probably what I'm missing. Yeah, right. Thank you, Colby.
No worries.
So I was wondering why it never said Heroes of the Storm. Now, yep. So now we have in our results object, we have the name, we have all the characters. Right, so this is probably going to be, because this is a big game, there's probably going to be quite a few characters in this. Yes, right. This is just one game. These are all the characters. So I'm going to scroll all the way down. It's still just listing more and more characters here.
Are you able to somehow easily see the count of all those?
I believe so. I believe that it might be no. So I don't know if their API does a count for the characters. I know that's like I was reading something recently talking about like API like best practices and like if you do have an array, right, like returning the count. But let's see. So here's another nice thing we can do. We can collapse this object just to see where the bottom of it is. So it's at 545.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Right, and that's helpful because like if you're going through quickly, you don't know where the end is. Now I know I can like scroll down to 545 and see if there's anything like at the end before it, and then there's not. But okay, so now we have, in theory, right, we have this ability to get characters. And then if we have the ID for the game of the character we want, we should be able to plug that in to this here. So let's connect these and let's go ahead and see if we can't get them kind of doing one after another. because I think that'll be the first step of getting the next flow happening.
Right.
All right. So if I am getting characters, well, here's a bit of an issue we're going to run into is because it returns multiple people, like just trying to get the correct person. So I'm trying to think if there's a way we can. I think for this
full name that you can like, is it the full name?
That's a good, yeah. I'm trying to think if there's like a unique character just for the challenge part of this. We'll just get a character who only has one game that they're in.
Someone mentioned Spyro earlier. Maybe you can try that.
Yeah, let's see.
I think that's with a Y. How vast is this database of games?
I mean, they call themselves the most robust API for video games. Oh, this looks.
There we go.
Perfect. Whoever said Spyro, thank you very much. This is a perfect recommendation. Right. So number of page results, 1. This is what we're looking for this project. So now let's see if this ID returns other characters, because otherwise it should. But if it doesn't, we're gonna have a hard time coming up with best friends for Spyro here. All right. So this, again, I'm just taking the ID from this request of the game itself and plugging that into the now get game request for this specific ID. And right, we get Spyro the Dragon. Cool. And now we get the other characters that are in here. So we got Nasty Nork, Toasty. Perfect. Okay. Yeah, this will be fantastic.
Awesome.
Okay. So now let's make this dynamic so we're not just hard coding things in here. So we need to capture this ID number, right, in order to send it to that next request. So to do that, what Postman has is these tabs up here that allow you to kind of work with your response or do some code before the request gets sent. So if I wanted to do some work before the request gets sent, here's this pre-request script. And this is all code that would happen before the request gets sent. Request gets sent, response gets returned. And then any code that you enter in this tests tab happens after the response gets received. So again, this is what we want to capture here is this ID number. And I'll open this up a little bit so we can kind of see, here's our response. It's just a JSON object. We basically just have to, go in and capture ID. So one thing we can do is you can write JavaScript here. So I'm going to say let JSON response equal, and here's, I just happen to know that this PM object is a Postman object that allows you, or yeah, it has a bunch of like methods and various things that you can do to, work with the response and do stuff in these test tabs. So PM.response. So this is, works with the response and tells us what the response is after we've gotten it. And then I'm going to use this method called .json, which is going to just convert it into JSON. And now I will have a JSON object called JSON response that I can work with. And another kind of cool. Go ahead, Colby. Sorry, I know it's like a lot.
No worries. No, I was going to say, so Postman makes that PM available based on that response so that you can grab that and work with that data.
Yeah. Yep. And we have, documentation around this. I think this might work. Yeah, right. So this PM object provides most of the functionality for testing your request, right? So this is something that's been made available in that Postman sandbox that allows you to, work with your response and do various things. So highly recommend checking this out if you aren't familiar. There's a lot more that you can do with Postman that people probably don't realize.
And there's even some like library utilities, right?
Yeah. So there's a bunch of libraries that are kind of built in and you're able to use in these sandbox. So we have for our tests, we have something called chai.js built in that helps use, sorry, I'm trying to like navigate these things. But if I wanted to add a quick test in here, there's this little snippet section that has, built in, little code snippets that allow you to, run tests, and you see this assertion, PM.response. So here's that same object. And then here's where the chai.js comes into place, right? Just allowing you to check that the status is 200 return. And if I were to
That's super handy.
yeah, right. So this is something that people don't, I think, typically know about or use. So you see right now in our response, there's nothing under test results. If I were to click send again, now you'll notice we have test results 1 of 1, and that means we did in fact, have this status of 200 get returned. And right, if I were checking for 400 status, and this is just the name of the test, right? We should see that instead of 1 of 1 passing, we're going to get 1 of 1 failing.
That's awesome.
Pretty cool.
Especially when you're not just when you're playing around with APIs like this, but when you're actually building custom APIs, that's super handy.
Totally. Yep. Cool. So I'm going to delete this for now. Another thing people don't really know is this, that you have access to a console in Postman. So let's just see, what the JSON response is, just that we can see what exactly we're working with. So I'll click send again, and it doesn't look like much change, but if you come down here to this console button on the bottom left and open it up, here's all the requests that I've sent so far. And now you can see we've actually logged this JSON response object. And I just like this because it helps me kind of see what I'm working with. And you can get all sorts of information in the console about your request in general. Here's that results array that we're going to work with. And so this just kind of helps me visualize, all right, what do I need? I need to go in this object. I need to get into this results object. Then I need to get this GUID, right? So this kind of helps me visualize it.
For sure.
So let's collapse this. And so I want the ID to be, so we're going to start with this JSON response. Then it's going to be in the results. And this is where I'll get a little bit I don't know, not best practice, but I'm going to hard code because I know exactly what it is just for time's sake here. Fair enough. We only have one object, and I know for it we want this GUID. And let's see if I got this right. It's possible that I didn't. So if I send this, we shouldn't have any errors, and we should see in our console. Oh,
beautiful.
Yeah,
you got it. Yeah,
it looks correct. I'm curious about the hyphen in there because I didn't think that was what we wanted.
That's 15 minutes left.
Okay, all right. Think we're in a good spot. Oh yeah. Okay. Perfect.
I guess it has it.
All right. So now that we have that, there we go. Right. What I want to do is I actually want to store this value, right? I need to be able to take this ID value and pass it to my next request, right? So get game wants to use this value. So to do that, I'm going to store it as a collection variable, and which is exactly what I did for my API key, because I'm going to use it again. So I will set it, and I'll call the name. I'll just say game ID, and here I will set it as that this string that I saved here from our response. Actually, because I want to show you that it saves, I'm going to do this instead of a collection level variable. I'm going to actually save this as an environment variable. And if you're not familiar with that, it's just another way you can save things. I just want to be able to show people where it saves and stuff. And otherwise I will leak my other key. So same idea, but instead of collection variables, I'm going to do pm.environment. I think this is right. I'm going to look it up because I don't remember.
So while you're looking that up, why would somebody want to store, like in a regular instance, why would somebody want to store a variable in a collection versus an environment?
Great question. So if you were doing it this is what we want, pm.environment.set. If I was doing other collections that were going to use the same thing, having it in an environment, it's basically variable scope is the answer. Right. So if there were things that were only specific to this collection, saving it at the collection level is totally fine. An environment is just a little bit more of a broad scope. So if I had other collections that had, I don't know, different things, or weren't using the Giant Bomb API, but had variables that were similar. Saving them in an environment is a nice way to like keep track of all them.
Yeah, something we used it for in the past too is we had the same API, but on different actual environments, like a development environment or a testing environment in production. So that was handy for switching those variables out for the host name.
Totally. Cool. So I will do this, and I don't have an environment set right now. So I'm going to actually, I'll save this, create a new environment. An environment is truly just somewhere we can save variables that, like we said, persist throughout, your like this workspace here if we needed to. So let's call it Giant Bomb, and this will be the ID. And right now it's not going to have a value, which is totally fine. So what I want you to see is that it will get set when I run this collection. Right, so I will set Giant Bomb. And now, if I get character, right, so here, this line here should set an environment variable game ID to that value. And I actually didn't save it, so I'm gonna change it so that it is actually correct.
I was just gonna give you that heads up.
Yeah. All right, so remember before we set this request, there was nothing in there. If I go back to it now, we see that we do have that current value of what we're looking for. So cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Right. So that's another, handy feature of environment variables and variables in general in Postman. Cool. So now we save this ID. So we've run this first collection. Now we can be dynamic with this second one, where instead of hard coding this value in here, I'm going to use that variable that we have called game ID. And right now, you see that it changed colors and it will evaluate to the value that we want. So I'll save this, and I'm not going to run it here because, we actually have run it already for Spyro. But what's nice is if I come back up to this collection level, I can click this and then click run here, and this will run whatever requests I have in this collection kind of in sequence, right? I can change the order if I want, but this is the order I want. I want to get the character that I'm looking for. Once I find them, I want to then get the game that character is in based on the ID that I saved. So let's run it.
Just so you know, we're at 10 minutes left.
10 minutes, okay.
That spooky music at all.
Ooh. Yeah, cool. So you can see they both successfully ran. I don't have any tests in there, but they both did run. And in theory, now I have this second request running and capturing all these things. So the next step, and we're getting close to the end, is I basically just want to get all these other characters, and I want to get their names and their I didn't save an image for them, but I suppose I could. But either way, let's, the goal was to get like a cool address book, but let's just go ahead and get them in there. So now that we have this result here, we're going to do the same thing in this request, right? So now we're in the game, get game requests. We're going to come over to the test tab again, and same idea. We're going to save first that JSON response. This is kind of always my first step, and convert it to JSON. So now we have an object that we can work with. And looking at it, it looks like it's going to be very similar, right? We can get the characters object. So we'll just say, let characters equal, so this JSON response dot results dot characters. And let's go ahead. This is just kind of my process. Let's make sure that this characters variable did save as what we expected.
Good old console log.
Oh yeah, all reliable. Error in URL format. Ooh, interesting. So it didn't like something that I did.
Does it not like the hyphen or something? I think if it's returning it, it would like it, no?
That's what I was saying before. That was kind of confusing because I was surprised. I didn't think that it had the hyphen in there when I sent it the first time. So let's see if we can't figure this out. So I'll send this request. So it's giving me that. Let's see the results. Yeah, odd. I wonder if
Did you have the? Yeah, I was gonna say hard coded in there.
And see if that works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember what you had before.
I don't think I did. Yeah, it doesn't like this.
So huh.
Okay. So this is a good debugging practice. So I don't think we'll get to exactly where we wanted, but we're on a mess around, which is still fun. So I'm going to go back up and see characters. What can we get? First appeared in game, right? Is that what we're getting?
Yeah, I was trying to see if I could figure out. I don't know if you can escape the hyphen like that.
Oh, okay. Here's the issue. I was entering in the GUID of the character, and what I actually want is the ID of the game itself.
Oh.
So we just have to adjust our yeah. We just have to adjust our test tab a little bit here. So instead of GUID, we actually want first appeared in game, and I think we can hard code this again.
Yeah, and I would actually expect that should return GUID, don't you think? Because it is technically the GUID, but
well, so it gave me, like you're saying before, what I had
for the game. Like, shouldn't that be labeled GUID? That's beside the point.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah. Okay, so I did something wrong again here. So, all right, I have this. Is this what I want?
Oh yeah, because I think that was an object.
Okay, yeah.
There we go.
All right, so now we've saved the proper ID. I'll save this. So now if I did this, I can go back and keep this as our dynamic variable of, I forget what I saved it as.
I think it was game ID, right?
Game ID, okay. Does that mean, is that over, or is that 5 minutes?
Sorry, I cut muted myself the wrong way. 5 minutes left.
Okay. All right. So, I mean, the last steps here would be just kind of capturing each one of these characters' bit of information. And so, like, now I have all these characters. What I want to do is I can kind of create a new environment variable. I'll set an array where I can just push all these characters, like an object for each character. We'll call it character array, because eventually what I'm going to end up doing is like getting all their information, and then, well, actually I don't need to, I guess I could visualize based on these alone.
Yeah, we can at least get the names up.
Yeah. So let's do that. So, well, if I kind of did like a for loop here, I could just get the names of all these guys. So characters.length, I++. What do you think the best way to go about this, Colby, the last few minutes here?
Does Postman support map? That'd probably be the easiest, right? The map function, if you're familiar.
Yeah. I'll be honest, I don't remember how to use map.
No worries.
The best. Yeah.
So then would you need to push each character onto that array then?
Yeah. So I do want to, let's say, let characters array, clean up the array. And then,
so I think it'd be characters array dot push, right?
Yeah. And then we can probably make an object if we want it. I guess we already have an object, but.
Yeah, actually, can we just pass right in the existing characters array?
The
the one that you're logging out?
Oh yeah, so it's like
right?
just set this as the environment variable. Yeah, we could do that.
Just to make it easy.
Yeah. pm dot environment dot set say characters array. So this will be our environment variable, and I'll delete this stuff for now. And this will be called characters. Right, so if I send this, I should have, right, in my environment, now I'll have this, object, which is going to look funny, but we do have this where we could use, we have our game, we have our characters, and then if we had more time, the last step would be kind of coming in and creating, a new request. Actually, I mean, we don't need a new request. Technically, we could have done, we have all the information we need to like make kind of this like best friends grouping. And yeah, ultimately what I kind of wanted to show and get to would have been, I'm gonna close this. Right, in our response tab. Go ahead, Colby.
I was just gonna say, we still have like 1 minute left, and even if it takes like a little over, how much time do you think it would be to visualize the names with the response that we have?
I mean, it might be like five minutes or so.
Up to you, depending on how long you think it'll take to. Because we don't even need to show the image, just the name or something,
Okay, yeah, let's do this. I will try to pull in. Basically, what's pretty cool is, Postman allows you to like visualize your responses, and there is nothing set up here for this. And you just need to set up like a pretty simple like handlebars template.
Okay.
And so like we could do that. I'll try to find one that is.
That's all good. That sounds pretty cool though.
Yeah. Somebody's saying hey. Yeah, so let's steal this. Let's see if we can get something quick. So I am going to basically for visualization, it just requires this like HTML, CSS, JavaScript template, or HTML template, and you can also use CSS and JavaScript to like format it. So let's go ahead and put this template in here.
So if you hear that, that's the time.
Yeah. I'm happy to mess around for another few minutes if you don't want to spend time. Cool. Okay.
If it only take a minute or two, or a couple minutes, that sounds great.
Yeah, we can try it. If after a few minutes, I think it's a fruitless endeavor, we can call it. I think I just have to be careful with like calling things the right names. Right. So I have this characters array, and right. So here's where we would set the visualizer. So I'll copy this. This is the danger of like copying and pasting code is, I'll have some stuff that's nice, but okay. So instead of response, our response is going to be characters, right? That's the
characters array, right?
Yeah.
Or are you able to pass characters right in at that point?
I think so. Right. And so for characters, we would want
response.
Yeah, and I think response is fine here because that's what it's being called.
So then in the template, does that just automatically give you the? So that should automatically work with the name, right?
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, that's and hoping.
Yeah, I mean we don't have Spyro's email, but that's okay.
Yeah, or it should be because characters is this. So yeah, name, and we can change email to. Or we'll just say ID just so we have something else in there with them.
Yeah.
We don't have Spyro's email like that. Let's give it a try. I'm not totally confident this will work, but hey, that's part of the fun.
I'm optimistic.
I love it. It makes fun of us. Okay, so if I click this visualize tab, we should see a beautiful table with names and ID numbers. Hey,
yes!
Look at that. Nice.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So this is this is kind of like scratching the surface of what you can do with visualization, right? You can probably get an idea of how, you know, in depth you can make this, and the template, the idea of the template you can make.
For sure.
But yeah, right. Here's a list of all the 50 characters that are in that game with Spyro.
And I'm guessing like the goal of the visualize, like it's probably not intended to create like a whole web app in there, right? Like it's mostly just like to help somebody visualize, like it says, visualize the data, right?
Yeah, we're seeing more and more kind of like advanced use cases of this visualize tab, and you know, people doing things where you're actually working in the visualize tab and getting valuable information and taking things from in there and really robust stuff. But I've used it for pretty basic stuff like finding you know, Spyro's video game friends.
No, that's awesome. But like even, you know, working with data every day, especially big API requests, it just makes it so much easier if you have a little bit easier way to visualize it. So that's
Totally.
awesome.
Totally.
Awesome, man. Well, yeah, do you want to just take a second to kind of review like the couple of things that you've built today?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, first, thanks for everyone that kind of hung around. This was cool. I'm glad we got to, you know, get it working a little bit.
Absolutely.
So pretty much what we did is we took a look at this Giant Bombs API and tried to, you know, really just get started, search for a specific character, and once we got information on that character, we wanted to then find some information about what game that character was in, and from there send a second request. Kind of use the power of Postman to get one request and immediately take the information from that and do a second request with the information from that first one, and, you know, get related information and you know, then visualize it and do something cool with it.
That's awesome. I feel like I was pretty comfortable with Postman, but now I feel like I did actually learn a lot. So that's awesome. I don't know. I find it's a great experience because rather than trying to debug a bunch of APIs in the browser, because like I'm a front end engineer, right? Rather than having to debug those in the browser in the network tab, it just makes it so much easier to kind of expect what you're getting when playing around with it in Postman.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, just some of the stuff that Postman helps out with, you know, Kevin left a comment just like, can you see the size of responses, and just, you know, stuff that like you might overlook at first glance, but it's like, oh yeah, this stuff is pretty valuable to just see quickly and know what we're getting back.
Yeah, and I was impressed that like you didn't hover over the timing one. Like there's even timing metrics in there, which I thought was cool.
Yeah. And I think this is kind of goes back to one of the comments earlier, right? It's like, you know, maybe other tools might be a little bit easier to get started, or a little bit, you know, less busy if you're just looking at the UI. But I think the value of Postman is just having just such a robust environment for working with APIs and getting to, you know, explore all sorts of different parts of it.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for coming and going through this challenge. And thanks everybody who joined today. I just want to thank you for accepting the challenge of Colbyashi Maru, and make sure everybody go out and check out Sean's work on Twitter and go grab a copy of Postman and start testing your APIs. But next week, we'll have Maxim Ivanov, who will face off against building a Twitter thread reader with React and TypeScript. So Sean, before we head out, any last words?
No, I thanks so much. Yeah, if you haven't checked out Postman, please go ahead and do it. We have quite a few beginner resources. It's an awesome tool. Our community forum is a great place to come and ask questions if you not sure where to go or how to get started or get stuck. We love talking to folks that are brand new to Postman or Postman power users. We love to hear what you're experiencing with it. So thanks so much for coming.
Awesome. Well, I am going to raid somebody. Let me pull it up. It looks like Alex Trost is currently streaming, so I'm going to raid him. But thanks again, Sean. And this is Colby signing off.
Bye, y'all.